Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I wanted to talk about Advent calendars and specifically my 2025 Advent calendar for this year. So I'm going to talk through a few little bits to do with the calendar. There's quite a lot to get through. I want to talk about, obviously I want to share my theme and my mood board. I'm going to give you some examples of what I mean when I'm using certain phrases talking about the colours that I'm planning. I want to give you some examples of the packaging that I plan to use. I'm going to talk about the costs. I'm going to talk about the payment plans and how that works. I'm going to talk about the yarn bases that I'm going to be incorporating. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about shipping, particularly looking at orders, international orders and how they're affected and things like that. So I'm going to start, however, with a quick explanation of what an advent calendar is. Because if you are new to the yarny world, if you are new to kind of indie dyed yarn and things like that, you may not have come across the idea of a yarn advent calendar before, and that's totally understandable. They have been around for a while. This is my 7th year doing a full advent calendar, a full 24-day advent calendar. And they were around before I started doing them. So yeah, they're nothing new in the yarn world, that's for sure. And every indie dyer does them slightly differently. But the general idea is that you get 24 mini skeins, and they will each be individually packaged or wrapped so that you open one each day throughout Advent in the lead up to Christmas. Sometimes people will also include a Christmas Day skein, or it'll be an additional add-on so that you have something to open on Christmas Day as well. But that is generally the idea of an advent calendar. Everyone does completely different themes. Everyone does completely different spins on it. People include different things. Yeah, it's a really fun thing for the month of December leading up to Christmas. It's just a really fun thing to open. So this year's theme is Little Women. It has become tradition for me now to do my Advent based on a book or a play from a previous year. And this year is no exception to that. We are being inspired by the novel Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. And yes, there will be a read-along element. That is something that I have been asked multiple times. I have offered a read-along element in my Advents over the last few years, and I will absolutely be doing that again. So let's start with what's included and then we'll look in a little bit more detail at the mood board. So this year my Advent includes 24 mini skeins, each individually packaged so that the surprise stays alive throughout the month. They will also be numbered so you know which one to open on each day. They will be packaged in, and you will also include, I guess, a printed tote bag. Which will, I won't tell you the details of what's going to be printed on it, but obviously it will be themed around Little Women and the artwork that I have and things like that. You will also have a set of custom printed wooden stitch markers, which I am quite excited about. They look like they're going to be really fun. There will also be a Little Women bookmark, and you will also get the info sheet, which includes details of which chapters to read each day to read along with your advent calendar. So yeah, that is what is included. There is also the option to add on a Christmas Day skein or a Christmas Day sock set. So I'm offering the choice of either 100 grams or 120 grams. It's up to you, basically, whichever you prefer. And the Christmas Day skein will be dyed inspired by the same mood board, but it will incorporate probably more colours from that mood board than the individual minis will, just because of the way that a kind of fade works. So on that topic, let's talk about the mood board. So this is my mood board. Now, again, this is something that dyers will do very differently. Some dyers will give you 6 mood boards with real details about what colours you can expect. Some dyers will give you the whole 24 colour kind of theme. I like to keep it a little bit more secret than that. I like the mystery element. I enjoy that when I'm purchasing an advent calendar, and I think that's part of the fun. However, there are some very big hints in this mood board as to what colours you can expect. So to start off with, we have got the colours of the stockings and the ribbon on the mantelpiece. We have got the little yarn basket at the bottom in the fireplace as well. But the big thing, and I will try and find a zoomed in picture here, the big thing that gives away the colours is this snowflake garland, both around the outside of the main image and also on the mantelpiece. And as you can see from this, we will be moving through pinks and purples to blues and turquoises and greens throughout this advent calendar. And that is the kind of colour plan. Now, I've talked about the fact that it is going to be dusky pastels, and that is how I've referred to it when I've been talking about it. So what do I mean by a dusky pastel? Right, I have examples here. So, in my mind, a pure pastel are these colours. You're talking kind of baby pinks, baby blues, pure pastel colours. And they're beautiful, they're lovely, but as I've said, I am leaning towards dusky pastels. And this is kind of what I mean by dusky pastels. So you're looking at this kind of tone of colour. Basically, these are not colours that I have dyed specifically for the advent calendar. These are just ones that I have pulled off my shelf or out of my mini baskets because they fit the theme of dusky pastels. But yeah, these are what I mean when I talk about dusky pastels. There are definitely more pinks in the dusky range. I just didn't have examples of them. So yeah, this isn't going to give you like a full idea of the advent calendar, but it's just a little hint as to what you can expect in terms of tonality. So yeah, that is a dusky pastel in my mind, and that's the kind of tones we're going for with this year's advent calendar. I've also talked about the fact that it won't be a pure fade. So I have in previous years, in 2023, when I did my Midsummer Night's Dream advent calendar, this one here, I did a pure fade. So the colours very much moved. You had a lot of yellows that then moved into oranges, that moved into pinks, I think, I'm trying to remember, that moved into purples, to blues, to greens, and this was a circular fade. So you start and finish on colours that will continue a circular fade, basically. And I've talked about how this year won't be a pure fade. And the reason I said that is because I will be incorporating what I've referred to as gently variegated colours. And what does that mean? So what I mean by that is I mean colours like these that incorporate multiple colours and multiple tones within them. So this is the most obvious example of an obviously variegated colour, but within the pastel colour range, it is much more subtle and much more gentle when it's knit up. So that is a very kind of obvious one. But then there's also colours like this. This is Wendy, which has blues and pinks in it, and also that has introduced purples. So you get like sections of blue and sections of pink and sections where they mix and things like that. And then I've also got kind of this one as an example, and this one incorporates blues and greens. So again, you get kind of sections of green and turquoise and sections of blue in it. So that's kind of what I mean when I talk about a gently variegated. And the reason I'm saying that that means it won't be a pure fade is because in my mind, a pure fade, very much like that Midsummer Night's Dream advent, very much moves from one colour to the next very clearly. But in terms of the fade element that I'm going for this year, you're going to be going from pinks to purples 100%. But some of those colours are going to incorporate both pinks and purples rather than the tone just changing, rather than going from a pink to a different pink to a pink that is slightly purple to a purple that is slightly pink to a purple, if that makes sense. You're going to go, say, from a pink to a different pink to a skein that is pink and purple, in that it's variegated between the two rather than being the dye has been mixed to create a blend between the two. I hope that makes sense. It's a very hard thing to describe, but I hope those colourways have given you a little bit of an example of what I mean by that and how I'm kind of planning it to work. But I don't want to come out and say, oh yeah, it's absolutely 100% going to be a pure fade, and then have people expect something that it isn't. But it will fade between those colours and across that mood board. You're not going to get a skein that is pink and green, for example. It will be between that colour story and that mood board. That's kind of, yeah, I hope that makes sense. It's very, very hard to explain. Okay, let's talk yarn bases now because I feel like we're in the flow of talking about yarn. So I am offering 10-gram advents as well as 20-gram advents this year. I have not seen a lot of dyers offering 10-gram advents this year. I feel like maybe it's gone out of fashion a little bit. I'm not sure why. But I like to offer a 10-gram one because I think it's a slightly more affordable option and there is still a lot you can do with a 10-gram advent calendar. So yeah, I do still like to include it as an option. But as I said, I am offering 3 10-gram bases and 4 20-gram bases. So the 10-gram bases are the same as the 20-gram bases. There's just an additional 20-gram base. So the first base I'm offering is my merino nylon 4-ply base. Which is a very standard base. It is one of the most versatile bases. It is incredibly soft. This jumper is knit out of this base. I've knit socks out of this base. Like, you can knit absolutely anything out of this base. It is one of the most versatile bases. It is super soft and it is lovely. I am then offering a sparkle 4-ply option, which is this base here. I'm hoping the sparkle comes across on camera. I haven't got proper lighting behind, so it might be a little bit trickier. I think it is. This is the Stellina sparkle as opposed to the Lurex sparkle. So it is a gentle, subtler sparkle, which I personally prefer. It is also super soft. I swear this base is softer than the merino nylon. People often ask me, oh, is the Stellina base still soft enough for this or that? And I think they're worried that the sparkle is going to be itchy. It really isn't. And I genuinely think the Stellina base is actually slightly softer than the merino nylon base. But yeah, there we go. So that is the sparkle. I'm then also offering a merino nylon DK base, which is this one here. It is a lovely base, very versatile, lovely and plump. Perfect for if you're wanting a DK advent. And again, very similar. It's a very similar base to the 4-ply, just in DK. I don't have an example of the final base, but the final base I'm offering is a sparkle DK base, which is basically a mashup between these two bases. It is the Stellina sparkle on the DK 4-ply base. So it's very much a crossover between these two bases. I just don't actually have any in stock at the moment to show you. You were very lucky that I had the 4-ply merino nylon mini in stock, because I only actually have 2 of these until my yarn order arrives tomorrow. But yeah, that is the bases. And I thought I would just share quickly an example of the same colourway dyed up across all 3 bases, because it just gives you a little feel for the difference. So the top one is the DK base, the middle one is the sparkle base, and the bottom one is the 4-ply base. And I'm just going to flip that. So we're now 4-ply top, sparkle middle, DK bottom, just so you can kind of see there is not masses of difference between the bases. The one thing I will say is that speckles tend to come out slightly chunkier. Trying to find some speckle bits to give you an example. Speckles tend to come out slightly chunkier on the DK because obviously the yarn is chunkier. So they just appear slightly chunkier on the DK than they do on the 4-ply. And occasionally the sparkle comes out looking slightly lighter than the 4-ply, but it's a very, very subtle difference. So there's very little difference between the yarn bases in terms of how they take dye and how they take colour. Okay, let's look at packaging. So, as I said, this year includes a tote bag, and I've done various tote bags over the years. We have had my simple logo tote bag in this style that tucks into the corner. We have had again, another logoed one, which was a drawstring bag. Ignore the fact that that says dodgy. That is a dodgy advent from 2023 that I have done nothing with. It was missing a couple of colours. And then that doesn't happen. Just to say, that is why that one I have. I didn't send any out to customers that were missing colours. I always dye spares to have any issues like that solved. And I changed how I packed last year, so I didn't even have any dodgy ones. It was just that one. It was just that one. And then last year's advent, I had a nice big tote bag. I love this tote bag. This is the style I'm thinking I will probably use again this year, because honestly, I have stolen like 4 of these, and I use one pretty much every day. The size is fantastic. Like, I take them to knit night with me. I can get like 3 or 4 projects into this bag, and yeah, they are brilliant. I absolutely love it. It's got a great box bottom. So yeah, this is the style that I'm probably going to go for again this year. Obviously you'll have different artwork printed on it because it will be based around the Little Women artwork, but yeah, that is the idea. And then I'm probably going to package the Advent similar this year to how I did last year. So I thought I would share, I have a few spares of last year's Advent that I haven't actually put up on the website yet. We're gonna do a Christmas in July, I think, and put them on the website then. But it was great because it means I can show you how I have packaged them. This will be a little bit crinkly though. So this is how the Advents were then packaged inside the tote bag. So this is not plastic that they're in. This is a compostable cellophane. So it's a cellulose-based plastic, I guess. It's not plastic, but it can go in your food bin. It can be composted. It's great. It is just very crinkly. And then all of the mini skeins are in their little sweet bags. They are all numbered with stickers. Not that you can see any of the stickers because they're all hidden on the inside for some reason. There will be different coloured sweet bags this year. You've then got a little info sheet in there with all of the read-along information. Any extras will be in there. Last year we had an advent candle. And then on the front here we had the bookmark as well packaged up in there. So yeah, that is kind of what you can expect in terms of packaging, and keeping it in the cellophane just made it a lot easier to pack and keep everything separate, because that is one of the big things with Advents. There are so many minis and so much going on in terms of packing them that trying to keep everything in the right place is tricky. So let's talk about costs. Advent pricing is a very tricky thing. It is a very difficult thing because Advents involve a significant amount of work. Like, I really cannot describe to people the amount of work that is involved in putting together and completing an Advent calendar. It genuinely is, like, it takes over the next kind of 4 to 5 months of my life, basically. From dyeing all the mini skeins up to scanning thousands of mini skeins to then putting them all in their sweet bags, not to mention like the colour actually planning the colours and testing the colours and all of that kind of stuff. Like, that's all still to come. And then obviously you're dyeing up batches and batches of them, and then you're scanning them all, then you're packaging them, so you're working out whether you're labelling them, how you're giving people the colourway information, like all of that kind of thing, as well as working out, as well as getting them all in their sweet bags, which takes so much longer than you think it does. Honestly, imagine how long you think it takes for yarn dyers to bag up Advent minis, and then multiply that by at least 2, because it takes so much longer than you expect. Even though this is like the 7th year I've been doing it, it will still take longer than I expect it to. And then obviously just assembling everything and getting it ready to ship. So we need to factor in a little bit of cost for time as well in that, because it is a significant amount of time that's involved. So much more than just normal yarn products, basically. So I am offering, as I said, a 10 gram and a 20 gram advent calendar. This year, my 10 gram advent calendar is £125. My 20 gram advent calendar is £160. Now, my 20 gram advent calendar is the same price as last year. However, I have increased the price of the 10 gram one because I just needed to bring the costs in line with each other. Last year, I made significantly less on the 10 gram advent calendars than I did on the 20 gram advent calendars, and my yarn supplier has put their prices up. Other prices have gone up, and I just need to bring those in line with each other so that I'm making the same amount whether people order 10 grams or 20 grams, basically. And then, as I said, you've got the option to add on a day 25 skein, and if you add 100 grams on, that's £21. If you add a sock set on, that's £25, and that just gets rolled into the cost of your total. Now, Advents are a big expense. They are a big outgoing. They are a big product and they are expensive. So to make them more accessible, I do offer a payment plan. You can pay up front, you can pay in full, absolutely no problem at all. But as I said, I do offer a payment plan to make them more accessible. And that payment plan splits the payment into 4 separate payments, 4 equal payments. So your initial payment is when you place your order online, you will pay 25% of the final cost plus your shipping. And then in June, July and August, I will send you an email invoice with a link to my website to complete your payment, and each of those will be 25% again. So I think, this is where I'm going to do the maths wrong off the top of my head. I think the 160 gram one, it splits it into 4 payments of 40. Yes, that's right, because 40 and 80, and then 80 is 160. Yeah. So your initial payment will be £40 plus shipping, and then June, July and August, you'll get an invoice for £40 each of those months. Do I prefer people to pay in full, or do I prefer payment plans? That is a question that I've been asked, and it's an interesting one actually, because I think a lot of people feel like payment plans are more work for the dyer. And they absolutely are, because I have to individually create invoices for you and send those out in June, July and August. But one of the perks of payment plans is that I get money in June, July and August, and the summer are quite often the quieter months for indie dyers. So having Advent invoices coming in during June, July and August is quite nice. It boosts my income up those months. It means that even during the quieter summer months, I have money coming in. So yeah, I don't have a preference. In fact, for me, I quite like to aim for 50-50. If half people paid in full, then I get a good chunk of money up front to be able to spend out for the yarn costs. If half people pay in payment plans, then I've got a good chunk of money coming in June, July and August, which help towards more of the Advent costs, but also just help towards the fact that they tend to be quieter months in the indie dyer world. People don't buy as much yarn when it's hot and sunny. Who knew? So yeah, I genuinely don't have a preference. So don't feel like, if you're like, oh, I want to buy an Advent, but I'm going to have to use a payment plan because I can't afford to pay it up front, and I don't want that to be hassle, or I don't want to be awkward. You're absolutely not. I genuinely would like people to use the payment plan option, because not only does it split the cost for you, but it also splits the income from me. It means I have money coming in over the next few months, and that is genuinely a good thing. So don't be afraid to use that payment plan option if you need to at all, because yeah, I'd quite like it to be kind of 50-50 between pay in full and payment plan, and that's where we're sitting at the moment. So it's looking good that way. And genuinely, generally on previous years, that's kind of how it works out, about 50-50. So yeah, don't be afraid to use it, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, and then the final thing I wanted to talk about was shipping. I think I've done it all in a slightly different order to how I've got it written down. But yeah, the final thing I wanted to talk about was shipping. So UK Advent calendars will be shipped in October, usually towards the end of October. They will be shipped in October using tracked 48 postage, and international orders will be shipped using international tracked services, all from Royal Mail. I use the tracked services because not only does it give me a bit of reassurance, but it also gives you reassurance. We can follow your package, we can see where it is. But also, if it gets lost, that tract comes with insurance, which means I can send you out a replacement and I can recoup the costs of having to send out that extra spare from Royal Mail with their insurance, hopefully. So yeah, that is why we use those ones. European customers, I am GPSR compliant, so this is the new general product safety regulations, which is why a lot of UK indie dyers have stopped shipping to the EU and Northern Ireland. I am compliant, I have gone through the process, I have paid the however much money it cost me, which means I can now ship to the EU and I can ship to Northern Ireland. So you can absolutely still order an Advent calendar from me. Just bear in mind that you may get customs charges when it arrives. So factor that into your budget. Like if you know how much money you want to spend on an Advent calendar, but you know that you may get, I don't know how much customs charges are, it varies from country to country, but you may get 10% added on in customs charges. Just bear that in mind and factor that in when you are budgeting for your Advent calendar. That is all I would say. American customers, as far as I am aware at the moment, although I do believe that there are going to be new trade agreement stuff done today, so I'm not I can't say this absolutely 100% certain, but as far as I am aware at the moment, the de minimis rule still applies, which means as long as you're not ordering over $800 of yarn, then you won't be affected by tariffs. I don't think I could physically ship $800 of yarn to you. I think it would go over the weight limits for the packaging. So I don't think there's going to be an issue. I know that that has been taken off for items from China, and I know that has affected quite a lot of small businesses who have their items manufactured in China. None of the items in my advent calendar are manufactured in China. Everything that is being included in the advent calendar, from obviously the yarn, is not manufactured in China. The tote bags are made and printed in the UK. And anything else included in the advent calendar is not manufactured in China, so that won't be an issue at all. So yeah, you should be safe from tariffs, hopefully. I can't say that with 100% guarantee, but just from my research and from what I've worked out so far, it looks like it shouldn't be an issue. How long will I keep the listing open? That's a good question. Right, so my plan is for the listing to stay open until the end of May. I do have a capacity, but it is quite a large capacity. We are sitting at the moment at maybe 60% of that capacity full. But that is after the initial rush of orders, and that slows down as the month goes on. So I fully expect to be able to leave the Advent listing open until the end of May. If you are waiting until the end of the month for payday or anything like that, and you're worried about it selling out or whatever, then feel free to just drop me an email. I will add your name to the list so that I know how many I've sold, and then you can place your order at the end of the month, or I can invoice you for it at the end of the month if I have to take the listing down. So yeah, if you are waiting for the end of the month because of payday and stuff like that, then yeah, just drop me an email if you're worried about it, and I will put you on the list and I can invoice you at the end of the month or something like that. If you have any questions, then feel free to drop me an email. I am happy to help however I can, if I can. It is absolutely fine. Right, last thing is also with the payment plan, don't panic if you've missed an invoice. I will absolutely be sending out reminders. I generally send the invoices out at the beginning of the month, roughly within the first week of the month. It just depends where weekends and things like that fall. And then if I haven't received your payment by the end of the month, then I will generally send out a reminder either at the end of the month, or when I send out the invoice for the next month, I will send out an invoice for it will be both the previous month. So you'd get June's. If you haven't paid June's, July's will be June and July included in it. And I will send out reminders and everything like that. If you haven't paid by the end of August, then in September, I will send out reminders multiple times to kind of chase you down and make sure that everything is paid for by the end of September. If you haven't paid by the end of September, and I can't get in touch with you for whatever reason, then the initial payment that you make is a non-refundable deposit. But everything else payment-wise you've made will be refunded to you and the order will be cancelled. So just make sure that your email is input correctly at the beginning of the month, because that is one of the biggest issues I've had in the past, is somebody's email not being correct and I can't get hold of them because of that. So yeah, just make sure your email is correct, and don't worry, I will chase you. So you will not be able to miss the Advent invoices. And if you do miss one, it's fine. We'll just do it next month. Like we'll work it out. It's not a problem. One of the perks of being a small business is being more flexible with you and being able to kind of help where I can. Anyway, I think that is everything I wanted to talk about. I hope it has helped you with your decisions about Advent calendars. Thank you to everyone that has already purchased. You are amazing, and your support means everything, because Advents are scary. Putting out an Advent is a terrifying thing. But yeah, thank you to those of you that have already given me that support, and any of you that have been on the fence. I hope this video has helped, and I hope this video has given you a little bit more information about what you can expect. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. And again, any questions, any comments, anything like that, drop them underneath the video, or just drop me an email. My email will be underneath the video as well, and I will help you where I can. Thank you for watching. Bye.